We work with the Workers' World Party. There are other groups that we are able to work with sometimes. Generally, our idea of unity is that we're looking to build a new party, which is also going to mean mergers, and we'll if we can unite, it has to be on a basis of Marxism-Leninism and proletarian nationalism. It has to be based on principles. And if people want to do that, we'll do it. If they don't want to do that, if people are willing to unite on practical programs, on real work, we'll do that too, in like a practical way, not organizationally. But we can do a lot of work together. Like in the RNC struggle, we built a coalition that included all the national anti-war coalitions, the Answer Coalition, the Troops Out Now Coalition, and the United for Peace and Justice. And those three coalitions hadn't met together in the same room for years. So if we can get groups together around practical struggles, we're happy to do it with anybody.
You guys coming up to Salt Lake if we get big RNC here?
Yeah.
About your stance on the struggles?
Oh, how come when you mentioned the national liberation struggles kind of within the United States, how come Native Americans were included in that list?
With Native Americans, we support full self-determination for the Native Americans to the extent that they haven't been wiped out. We support the recognition of all the treaties that exist, full land rights to Native Americans, and all those things. But the national question in the United States is very complex. For hundreds of years, the African American people under slavery built up their own economy and culture and all this stuff in the South. It was distinct from the various African peoples that were brought here. It was something new. Our view is that very, very unfortunately, the Native American people were brutally murdered, and genocide was waged against them, and they were forced onto these reservations. The reservations exist within the area that we would consider the African American national territory. So all this stuff is like very complicated, and a revolutionary struggle is going to have to sort this out. And our view is that the interests of the multinational working class has to come primarily before the national interests of any of these individual groups. So, the revolutionary power will have to find some way of resolving the differences that exist between these national groups, and finding ways, whether it's some kind of federation or autonomous regions or whatever, to find a way where all these oppressed peoples can develop and have self-determination.
Scratching your chin for a question?
No, just scratching my
Got
chin.
there for wow. Anyone has any other questions?
As far as like organizing and things like that go, what's kind of the day-to-day like? I mean, I'm sensing, I guess I knew a little bit more about you in advance. I'm sorry, that's my bad for not talking to these guys more yet about that. But what's like the day-to-day life in terms of the organizing work that you do, and just to get like a practical perspective on?
Well, so it totally depends on what people are doing. Most of it would be, we would attend meetings for the mass organizations that we participate in. Try to help organize and build those mass struggles, whether they're union struggles or anti-war struggles or whatever. And all the ins and outs of that will take up a significant amount of time. Then, you know, the basic form of organization is units that exist concentrated in different areas of work. And those units will meet to kind of sum things up and use Marxism to analyze the problems that are going on and see how we can move things forward. And bring that back to the mass organizations and try to sort that stuff out. So, you know, the day-to-day organizing is the nuts and bolts of organizing. It's you know, doing room reservations if you're a student, and flyering and talking to people, getting people together for protests, marches, and maybe you're going to have a building occupation. You know, and then when the struggle is over or at a critical point, you have to, you know, find a way to sum things up and draw correct lessons and conclusions from it based on Marxism, and you know, analyze how to move things forward, how to consolidate gains, and all that stuff. I think your question was a little broad and difficult to answer, but
Yeah,
I hope that helps.
I mean, you answered it well.
Yeah.
What do you think are the benefits and also the limits of protests as action?
Well, obviously, you know, if we say we're going to have an anti-war protest to stop the war, it's not going to stop the war that day. But the benefits are that, you know, there are a whole wide array of things to do to bring people forward in the struggles, and you know, through that process, raise people's consciousness and build movements. The main thing is to build you know, campaigns that have targets and goals, and protests are a part of those campaigns in most cases. But you know, as an end in themselves, it's not it. But you know, I think they're very important and valuable for moving people forward.
Sorry, just follow up on that. How do you see, either historically or just current, or you know, theoretically, how protests concretely move people forward, or would it be just different for different people?
Yeah, it's different for different types of struggles. You know, if you're talking about a union struggle, then you know, for example, it's in, you know, some workplace, you'll have an issue where the boss, you know, is cutting people's pay or whatever, and the workers want to fight, and the union officials don't, and so you might organize the rank and file to protest outside of the union office, and it's important because it puts heat on the union official, and who's depending on these people for dues, doesn't want the union decertified, and he doesn't want to be called a sellout in front of everybody. So maybe when the union officials over to help him fight this battle, which is good, anybody can fight the boss we want to fight with, and maybe you don't, and in which case you know, you're able to draw lessons with people about who your friends and enemies are, and you know, what the limits of these you know, conditions are, and that kind of thing. So you know, protests are important as like a learning process. You know, people learn through experience, through practice, and it's one of the main ways that you're going to draw lots of people into these experiences together.
More. In the list of people that you mentioned in terms of holding them in high regard, Lenin, Mao, Stalin, etc., what kind of effect does that have on maybe recruiting to kind of openly acknowledge, which obviously should be open about everything, I guess, but to openly acknowledge, say, you know, having a respect for Stalin, for example, who is just in terms of the U.S. population broadly considered usually a pretty rotten guy. What type of effect would that have on recruiting, for example, or does that not even really come up? Or?
Sure, it comes up. You know, the thing is, you know, recruitment's not just, you know, we're not just an organization that you can just join if you want to. there would be a process that would be involved, and we'd have to sort out our unity and differences. And so there are larger organizations in the world and in this country that have much easier ideas to unite with than we do. And that's what I'm talking about. We have to, it's not just our organization that can carry forward the revolution, it's the masses that make history. And so we have to work with people on a broader unity to fight against the capitalist class than it takes to join our organization and to be a revolutionary Marxist-Leninist. So if someone wanted to join our group and they didn't like Stalin or Mao, I think that if that person's not going anywhere, we can probably talk about it and sort it out and work out the whys and why nots.